index, but naming Boko Haram, ISWAP, as well as IPOB as terrorist group responsible for killing many Nigerians. But IPOB said this is a concocted falsehood. In the same report, IPOB was mentioned as the third violent group that has caused civilian deaths. We challenge IEP to present irrefutable evidence where IPOB killed any person in Nigeria. On the contrary, three, there are many verifiable evidence both on print and social media on the massacre and extrajudicial killings of many IPOB members by Nigerian security agencies since 2017. The statement reads. And still on the story is making the headlines on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Man City defeat made Arsenal better. Martin Odegaard. Martin Odegaard has said that last month's defeat to Manchester City made Arsenal a better team in their pursuit of Premier League and European League glory. Arsenal lost 3-1 at home to City on February 15, seeing Pep Guardiola side move to the top of the table for the first time since November, although having played a game more. And that's the much we can get you from the Vanguard newspaper this morning. And from the Vanguard newspaper this morning, we flip over to the Nation newspaper. Why our anti-graft foundations should be reinforced by Buhari. IPOB, IEP's 2022 Terrorism Index Report, faulty. ISWAP, Boko Haram, IPOB ranked 6th, 7th, 10th deadliest terror groups on GTI. And still on the stories making the headlines on the paper this morning. Food, fuel jack inflations to 21.9% in February. Nation newspaper this morning. Terrorists kill 3, abduct 70 others in Niger communities. Church marks centenary, laments Boko Haram destroys 1,390 branches. Pope appoints Nigerian for evangelization top post. Telecoms voice customers hit 226 million, says NCC. Telecoms voice customers hit 226 million, says NCC. And still on the stories making the headlines on the Nation newspaper this morning. Can Constitution Hill become the most decorated horse in Chatham Festival history? Can Constitution Hill become the most decorated horse in Chatham Festival history? CBN Old Naira Directive. Traders still skeptical on collection. CBN Old Naira Directive. Traders skeptical on collection. And still on the stories making the headlines on the Nation newspaper this morning, alleged kidnapping. Court admits 3 farmers to bail. And lastly, on the Nation newspaper this morning, we are working to fix recruitment application portal, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. You're listening to newspaper headlines on Ebona, the 103.5 FM. We'll now go for a short break. When we come back, we'll continue on the stories making the headlines this morning. Please stay with us.
Of New Hope Feed and Hendrix Feed. For day old chicks, we are also distributors of agricultural chicks, Zatex chicks and others. We also sell veterinary drugs and vaccines with uninterrupted cold chain. Our office address is at number 27 High Tension Road by Aroma, beside Cadland Office, Oka. Call us on 0818 555 0004. Our Ogiri address is by Benson Plaza by KP Junction, Ogiri, Anambra State. Call us on 0906 086 1372. Your favorite agro, your one-stop shop for poultry input. Your one-stop shop gekwa ntị n'ọkwa nke a dị oke mkpa. Egekwana akụkọ ndị ọchọ nganukwu, akụkọ ndị anya ukwu, iji onyakpa eli ozu ndị na-ebugharị akụkọ ụgha na achịcha bred adịgboroja wee na-akọ akụkọ na-asị na achịcha nke ha na-atọ ka nke Love Bite Bread. Asị biko Nwachukwu, Love bụ achịcha akwọrọ aka wee mee n'ịdị ọcha pụrụ iche, ejikwa ihe nri pụrụ iche wee mee Love Bite Bread. Enweghịkwa oyiri ya chaa. Egekwana ha ntị, ekwekwana echiri na ọ bụ Love Bite ka ị ga-azụ, maka na ọ bụrụ na ọ bụ egekwana ha ntị, ekwekwana echiri na ọ bụ Love Bite ka ị ga-azụ, maka na ọ bụrụ na ọ bụghị Love Bite, ọ dịghịkwa ka Love Bite. Love Bite Bread bụ naanị 800 naira n'ọdụ ahịa bread niile dị na Naịjirịa. Maka mkpesa, ajụjụ na ndụmọdụ, kpọtụrụ anyị n'igwe okwu 08149828254. Love Bite Bread, maka ọdịmma ezinụlọ.
How best can we talk about the challenges we are having on our streets, our community, our society in general? Street report. If we do this on Ebeonadi FM, who will, as the happenings around us get as complicated as they can be.
Our government,
Whatever street report is here to make sense of it all. Street report is causing social change across your streets. In your community, street report is causing social change across your streets. In your community, street report is here with hardcore journalists to get to the root of our problem. Why don't you join me, Martin Ifanish, as number the first every Friday, 4:30 p.m. on Ebeonadi 103.5 FM as street reports on fools in your face. On Martin Ebeonadi corner 24/7, 24/7.
You're welcome back to newspaper headlines on Ebeonadi 103.5 FM. Remember that you can send your reactions via SMS or WhatsApp on 080-9666-1035. We are not live on Facebook as network didn't permit for that, but you can as well stream us online via mixlr.com/gistfm. We are on to the Sun newspaper. Naira crisis. Federal government response to Supreme Court judgment insincere. Coalition of northern groups. Coalition of Northern Groups (CNG) has described the response of the federal government to the Supreme Court order on Naira swap as his spokesperson, Abdul Aziz Suleiman, in a statement yesterday said he was curious that days after President Muhammadu Buhari's directive, people still found it difficult to assess tension mounting, why the central bank governor Emefiele appears to be in isolation or living in total denial. By now, everyone is aware Buhari only deceived the nation by faking the directive to the CBN to respect the judgment of the Supreme Court, knowing fully well he did not mean to carry it out. Emefiele also pretended he was obeying the directive only to further press the cash squeeze upon citizens, he said. For more on that story, please get yourself a copy of the Sun newspaper. And then from the Sun newspaper, we are flipping over to this day newspaper. And from this day newspaper this morning on newspaper headlines on F1 at 103.5 FM, Uplink becomes payment facilitator set to launch Upperlink Paygate. Telecom subscribers implementation of Harmony. For more on that story, please get yourself a copy of this day newspaper this morning. Okomu. For more on that story, please get yourself a copy of this day newspaper this morning. Okomu Oil empowers women on waste to wealth initiatives. Impact Tech Hub on Nigeria's tech ecosystems. And still on the stories making the headlines on this day newspaper this morning. Repositioning the defense and security sector to strengthen. For more on that story, get yourself a copy of this day newspaper. And that's the much we can take from this day newspaper this morning. And from this day newspaper, we flip over to the Nigerian Tribune. DSS arraigns 4 suspected terrorists in Ogun. The Department of State Security Service, DSS in Ogun State, has arraigned 4 persons suspected terrorists before a chief magistrate court sitting in Isabo, Abeokuta. The prosecution counsel of the DSS, Emmanuel Samba, said the suspect Aliyu Abubakar Usman, Abubakar Ahmad, and Adamu Aliyu were arrested on December 9, 2022. Zamba informed that the court presided over by Chief Magistrate M.O. Osibanjo that a motion ex parte was filed on the 9th of March in respect of the suit marked MISC/15/2023 for terrorism and kidnapping. He explained that the case is between the state versus of the court to remand the suspect at the prison custody in the state. He said the suspects were arrested for terrorism and kidnapping on December 9, 2022, within the jurisdiction of the court. The council said that the offenses allegedly committed were contrary to Section 2 and 3 of the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022. We are praying for an order of this honorable court to detain the defendants in the custody of the Nigerian Correction Service for 30 days pending the termination of the suit. The defendants are suspected to have committed an terrorism within the jurisdiction of this honorable court on 9th December 2022, he said. And still on Tribune this morning, Nigeria, Israel to strengthen partnership on innovation, technological development. Details of that story. Nigeria and Israeli government have commenced collaborative moves to deepen partnership in innovation, entrepreneurship, and production to harness Nigeria's huge potential for its technological development. Israel's ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Michael Freeman, made this known when he paid a working visit to the executive secretary to the Tertiary Education Trust Fund (TET) Fund, Aksoni Nkono, at the fund's headquarters in Abuja. Acting Director, Public Affairs, TET Fund, Mr. Abu Mumimi Oni Oniyigan, in a statement on Wednesday in Abuja, said, speaking during the visit, Ambassador Freeman expressed Israel's desire to work with Nigeria in the area of technology and entrepreneurship development, describing Nigeria as a country of huge potential due to its teeming youth population. While describing Israel as a leading country in technology and innovation, Ambassador Freeman disclosed that 45% of Israel's gross domestic product (GDP) comes from innovation and entrepreneurship startups, as the country's major economic sectors are involved in high technology and industrial manufacturing. He stated that with Nigeria's huge potential, if the same could be achieved, or even a 30% GDP addition to Nigeria coming from technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship, it will hasten Nigeria's economic development, he said. And still on the stories making the headlines on the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Let's see if we can get you more stories from the Nigerian Tribune this morning, if network permits. And due to a network issue, that's the much we can take from the Nigerian Tribune this morning. And that's the much we can take from all the papers, all the news making the headlines this morning. We'll now move over to our SMS portals to get you some reactions we've gotten this morning. And from the SMS portal this morning, we got a message from Tupac from Chusai to Boduku Road on Isha, and he says, bandits, Boko Haram, herdsmen, and UGM activities are overwhelming our security operatives. And he continued that he says IPOB ranked 10th deadliest group in the world is ridiculous and laughable. Government is full of okay. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Tupac from Shusite from Oboduku. Thank you so much. And then we got another message that says if IPOB, okay, let me start it from the beginning, and then this is coming from Honorable Onyedeka Osakwe. He says that the polity had been overheated, lamentations and jubilations, drama is unveiling, wind of change, politics is okay, and then a man will hold a post in a prominent, okay, we can't like talk about some of the things you are talking about this morning, and then, but do understand, who bear with us that we can't talk about some of these things as at this time. But I'll try as much as possible to make sense of your message, Honorable Osakwe. And then at the same time, you said, Honorable, at the same time, people that did not sell through will re-strategize and come back with a new, okay, yeah, we can't really go on with this. And then you continued and said, this, all of what we do, it leads to hooliganism. Let's focus on the stories we've given you this morning. And then let's see if you have commented in some of the things that we talked about this morning. Okay, one of them is if IPOB is a terrorist group, then Nigeria in its self entirety is the mother, father, and son of okay terrorism, and Fulani herdsmen are left behind, and harmless people are being disturbed. This Nigeria. Okay, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Honorable Osakwe. And then we also got a message that says those who call for, okay, let's see, those who call called IPOB. Okay, started with the federal government of Nigeria should know that the extraordinary rendition of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu is not a joke, and the 6 months given by UN to release him within compensation expired on the 20th of January 2023. They should release him now to lessen the accumulation of. Okay, it is a reminder, not a piece of advice, because our advice does not count in Nigeria. And then he continued and said, those who call IPOB terrorists do not have the knowledge of international law on human and people's rights and African Charter on Human and People's Rights. IPC have collected, okay, and then IPOB is registered all over the world. Terrorists are not registered. IPC is where your cognate evidence produce it now. You cannot suppress the voice of God's people and remain the same. This one is coming from KCG from Enugu. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, KCG. We got a message from Ezekatabim from Oweraja Obosi, and he says, in Nigeria, your ATM card is your power, because if you don't have it for you to buy your money, hungry will finish you. No network. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. And then he continued and said, okay, the same thing. He said, if you don't have it, let's okay. Thank you so much for joining us. And then transformation is not 5 minutes from now. It is a present activity in the moment. You can make. Okay, let's see if you commented on some of the things we talked about this morning. Then he says, I'm begging those holding Prophet Mazen and the Kano to please release him after. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us this morning as a Katabi. And then we got a message that says, okay, this one is coming from Polymuizu from Monisha, but you are not commenting on the headlines we gave you this morning. So thank you still for joining us. Now we got a message from Smart P from Uguaba Obosi, and he says, please let the federal government look into the situation and condition of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu and order his release immediately to care for his health and families and peace for the eastern region. Smart P from Uguaba Obosi. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Aja from Odume said, IEP is an evil organization formed by the wicked, okay? And then I am disappointed in the group called themselves IEP. So they are claiming they don't know about ISWAP, Bandit, and Boko Haram. Nigeria is full of lies, envy, and wickedness. Let them release Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Aja. Thank you so much from Odume. Thank you for joining us this morning. And then we got a message that says, let all the Anglican women that is celebrating Women's Day use this opportunity to pray for our country, Nigeria, for God to intervene in all the challenges we are passing through. This one is coming from Ogochukwu Ifechukwu. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We got a message from PC from Unkwele, and he says IPOB is holy and law abiding, but us IPGE, whatever is their name, harbors bad government, terrorists, as well as criminals too, and highly corrupted and milkers of Nigeria natural resources. From PC from Unkwele. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, PC. Daniel Jurix from Akuzo Mbo. Government has approved the use of old Naira notes, and why is the masses still suffering in the midst of plenty? God help us in the name of Jesus. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Daniel Jurix from Mbo. This one is saying, please, all these group people referring to IPOB as the terrorists are just on their own because I don't want to be sarcastic against anybody here. What about killings in the northwest, etc.? In my island village, Amanze, in Amagunze, we can't farm and harvest anymore because of Fulani and their cows moving everywhere. And okay, journalists are busy vindicating us about Buhari's achievements. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Your message had no name, like there's no name on your message, but thank you so much for joining us still. Obidibo from Omoabanam is saying, he's reacting on the headline that included IPOB as terrorist group shows that Nigeria are not ready themselves to tell themselves the truth. Obidibo from Omoabanam. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And from the SMS portal, we move over to the WhatsApp portal to get you some of the reactions we got this morning. And this one is coming from, okay, there's no name on the, okay, it's coming from Nonso from Palonia, Adazim Nuku. And he says, I urge Anambra State government to form task force over banks and POS people. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And then this one, he says, I thought that Evans' case has been closed by sentencing him to 25 years imprisonment. What brought about his case again? Did he commit another case again? Or is it about the old cases of Evans? Midwives absent in hospitals in Uyo is worrisome because some cases of child delivery cannot be handled by quack nurses. And also, lecturers with the kind of huge ransom of money. What is he doing with that money? And he has been billed. What form of stuff? Thanks. And then this one is coming from Akidiamo Kana. Onyumunashi, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And then in the case of Evans, accumulated events, but being charged in court from time to time. Might some of the cases might also come up again. Some of the things he committed, the culprits are the people, the victims would also sue again, and then he will be charged, and then the court case continues to go, but he's already in prison serving his sentence for the ones that the court have handled already. But thank you so much for joining us this morning, Akedia Mokana, Onyo Munashi. Thank you so much. And then we got a message from Ifani Weka from Ikengo Gidi, and he says, please, I urge all youths to be law abiding because, okay, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And then you have to comment on the, headlines we gave you this morning. Then Onyeka Mwabufo from Umoji, and he says, traders are skeptical about using old Naira notes again because of elusiveness of intention of CBN and the federal government. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And then Chidera from Onisha, he says, money blind the eyes of the wise. That is why IEP has bring themselves so low. Free Nandekano, Chidera from Onisha. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And then this one is saying that the president making the statement that election is free and fair. He is only okay. You have to comment on the issue. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Engineer Efine Onwebusi, aka Georgia Amani from Azu Ogbunike. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And from our SMS portal, we got a message from Prophet Isaiah Onyeruoka from Udumo Bosi. He says, ranking IPOB terror group is laughable. Maybe they see Fulani herdsmen that killed people in dozens as okay. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Okay, Ogwewu Martin is saying answers will answer about POI, but to answer about Nigeria, they are hiding something. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Ogwewu Martin. And with that message from Ogwewu Martin, this is how we'll call it a day on this particular edition of Newspaper Headlines on Ebeonadi 103.5 FM. Remember, it comes your way every 7 o'clock weekdays morning, 7 o'clock in the morning weekdays. So keep a date as we will do this again on Monday. Before then, remember to stick with Ebon at 103.5 FM as we have a lot of other programs coming your way. So stick with us and don't touch the dial. Till we meet again. I am Martin. Stay with us.
igwe na-ekwe ọkụ na-agbasa ụzọ gabaga anya enye anyị ihe anyị na-achọ ka anyị nụma na ntị anyị maka na gị na gị ntị gbogbo ị na-eme mmadụ obi ụtọ nke oyibo na-agba entateinment omenala ka ị na-apali elu nke oyibo na-akpọ kọlchọ ihe eji eme ọfụma omenala n'ime obi ụtọ bịa eji mara gị ebe ọ na-adị FM 103.5 Ogidi azụ m na ọdịrọ ịkwa aka na azụ na onwe onye redio eji mmanụ itule redio gegide 103.5 Ogidi ebe ọ na-adị FM ka inume ị chọrọ obodo ga-adịkwa oyi na ikegide anyị pawa
Started out in the street, you would take the lecture from the street. Then I all about me. So I give you my testimony.